So now is the time to set your mind to listen to the Dhamma of the Lord Buddha. It's now the time to practice. Even though these 7 days are quite a short time, but may all of you have the faith, mindfulness, samadhi, panya, develop these four qualities continuously, and bring the Dhamma to practice with your body and mind. So your body and your speech now is set because you have received the 8th precept this morning. The body is normal because you don't kill, you don't steal, and your speech, you practice the right speech. You don't practice wrong speech. So now what is left is the mind that need to be trained. What need to be trained is that you have to find peace within the mind. The well-trained mind brings happiness. This happiness arises from the mind that realizes the Dhamma. When the mind senses the object, usually we just follow along, being happy, experience pleasure, displeasure, because the mind doesn't have the strength. So when we experience pleasure, we're happy. When we experience displeasure, we're sad. And sometimes we don't even know if what we experience is pleasure or displeasure. So we come here to practice so that we can have peace within our mind. Some of you may have practiced before, some of you may not. Some of you may have practiced for a long time, some of you may have practiced for a short time. But what we need to practice, basically, all the sila, samadhi, and panya, it all comes down to our mind, to our heart, to realize the present moment within the mind. What we need to develop is our sati, the mindfulness, sampajanya, the full awareness. From when we wake up until we go to sleep. So for these 7 days, you should practice, first of all, to speak less, or if possible, don't speak at all. This way, you can observe the mind more easily. Because when you speak, your mind, you send out your mind, and you don't realize the sense object that come in contact with your mind. So when you don't speak, you can observe the mind continuously. What it means is that you have to have sati, the mindfulness, when the sense object enter your mind. When the eyes see objects, the ears hear the sound, the nose smell, the tongue taste food or drinks, and the body touch. You should have mindfulness at all time. And when you have mindfulness, you don't cling to the pleasure and displeasure that arise. You realize that these sense objects arise, stay for a while, and cease to exist. This can happen because there's peace within the mind as a base. This way, the mind have strength. It's the strength to realize the Dhamma. When the mind is not peaceful, you won't be able to realize the Dhamma, and you cannot contemplate. And when you practice and develop the strength within the mind, you can catch the sense object, the aramana, that is more refined. Before, you may have the ability to sense these aramana to a level. But when your mind is more peaceful, you will be able to realize, to sense these aramana which are more refined. The reason we sit and we close our eyes is that we need to develop this strength for the mind to have samadhi. And then once we have the samadhi, we use that to contemplate. Venerable Ajahn Chah and Venerable Ajahn Anan always emphasize that once the mind is peaceful, we should contemplate our body to see how it is. What is our body made of? You can contemplate the 4 elements. Or you can contemplate that all these pleasure and displeasure that happen is because we hold on to our body. So when we practice and we have peacefulness, we have mindfulness and wisdom to see the true nature of the body, we can lessen the sakkaya titi, the holding on to the body, which is the beginning of realizing the Dhamma. But what we need first is the peacefulness. We all may have heard that in the times of the Buddha, the laymen, laywomen, they listen to the Buddha Dhamma and they enter the stream entry, or some of them may even enter arahantship. Why is that? It is because those people, their mind were already peaceful. The mind have samadhi and wisdom. And when they listen to the Dhamma, their mind stay in the present moment. When the mind stay in the present moment, then the mind enter the one-pointedness. They don't think about the future, they don't think about the past. When they realize Dhamma, is they realize the Dhamma in their mind, in their heart. So when the mind has strength, it will be able to understand and realize the true Dhamma. So may all of you be firm and have no doubt that what you are doing is right or wrong. You have to be confident that this is the right way, what you are practicing, because what we are all doing is within the frame of the Sila, Samadhi, and Panya, which can help to end the suffering. So for these 7 days, you should all practice a lot of mindfulness, even though when you change your postures, from sitting to walking to standing, your mindfulness should be continuous. You can do that by thinking Buddho, Dhammo, Sangho within the mind, or keep the mind within the body without sending it out. In that way, your mind will gain strength. Because the mind that doesn't have strength will start to proliferate and hold on to the sense object that happened. It doesn't stay in the middle. Venerable Ajahn Chah always emphasized that the state of being in the middle, not clinging to the pleasure or displeasure, this is the state that you will realize the Dhamma. This way, you will see that the feeling that happened, it just arise, stay, and cease to exist. Venerable Ajahn Chah said that to see these states happening is to see the Buddha. So when you see the Dhamma, you see the Buddha. And this Dhamma is the truth, the true nature of things. Because the Buddha arises within our mind. Some of us may have been to India, to the 4 places, the place of birth, the place of the first sermon, the place of enlightenment, and the place of Nibbana. Those are external places, but truly, the Buddha gets enlightened in his mind. And every one of us has a mind, so we can all realize the Dhamma. So we come here to practice as an offering to the Lord Buddha, which is considered the highest offering. Even though we may have offered material goods to the monks, but those cannot be compared to our practice. We practice in the forms of walking meditation or sitting meditation. But when you exit those formal practice, you have to keep your mindfulness and you have to observe your mind all the time, continuously. When you go to sleep, you can lay down and and observe your breath. Or you can stay with the mantra Buddho Dhammo Sangho, or you can contemplate that you are sleeping with the skeletons of your own. Or you can contemplate that when you go to sleep and you don't have mindfulness, it is the same as your body already died. All in all is not sending out your mind to other places. This way, you can rest for 2 or 3 hours, and that can be enough because the mind has enough rest. It doesn't proliferate. And when you wake up, when you open your eyes, you just continue to observe your mind continuously. This way, samadhi can happen for you. And when you have samadhi, when you stay in the samadhi, when feeling arises, those feelings may be unwholesome, you will be able to catch them, and you can contemplate and get rid of those feeling or sense object. So when you sit or walk or stand, your mind should be set. This way you will have the strength. Your samadhi, you may be able to gain the samadhi for a little bit, or even get to the level of one-pointedness. And when that happens, it will stay for a while. But when you exit that state, the mind will be ready to contemplate. And you should contemplate the body to see the true nature of the body. Some of you may think that if you have enough strength of the mind, you can contemplate the mind, the citta. But for most of us, we don't have that strength. And if we contemplate the mind, we'll just get swept away by the feelings, the pleasure and displeasure that happen. You can contemplate the body, that the body is not ours. You get sick. You can realize that it's just the body that gets sick. It's not your mind. Or when you get sick, the feelings, the vedana will happen. And if you have samadhi, then your mind will not hold on, will not cling to those feelings. That is the way to realize the Dhamma, to stay within the present moment. So all of you coming here or practicing online, this is very noble. Why is that? It's because it is very hard to be born as a human being, and also very hard to meet Buddhism. Even though all of us may not be born in the time of the Buddha, but we still have the teaching of the Buddha and the great masters that continue the tradition the teaching of the Buddha until the present days. And you should be heedful in this life. You shouldn't think that you are still young, so you have time to practice. Some of us may die before we will be able to practice. So may all of you be firm in this training, both the laymen and the laywomen. And you can realize the Dhamma, because the Dhamma can be realized within the mind. It's not about the sex, the male and female. Both male and female can realize the Dhamma. But that can happen. It's up to how diligent you are. If you have a lot of diligence, then you will realize Dhamma faster. If you have a little bit of diligence, then it may take a longer time to realize the Dhamma. So when you change your posture from sitting to walking, or from walking to sitting, you should keep your mindfulness continuously. First, you may be able to sit for 1 hour, but when your mind starts to be more peaceful, you can sit for longer, maybe 2 hours or 3 hours. Or maybe when you just start to sit for a little bit and your mind starts to proliferate, you think a lot. But you should set your heart to it, that you will sit until you stop thinking. Or you can do that in the posture of walking as well. And I have done that before. I have walked for 5 to 6 hours straight and entered samadhi, and the body and the mind become light. This is because the mind has strength and peacefulness. So all of you should have patient endurance in the beginning, and the displeasure, the feeling will disappear. And also, when you gain samadhi, you shouldn't hold on to that samadhi either. It is compared to a stone setting on top of the grass. When you lift the stone, when you lift the rock, the grass will be able to grow again. The grass can be compared to the kilesa. So when your mind is peaceful, then you should contemplate the three nature of all things, the anicca, dukkha, anatta. So all of you that come here give the time and set your heart to this retreat for a long time already. So when you come here for these 7 days, even though it's quite a short time, you should continue to have the mindfulness, the awareness of the body. And when you proliferate, you should pull your sati, your mindfulness back to your body. You shouldn't let your mind think about your house, your family, or your work. And you should continue to observe your mind continuously. And even though you may not realize the Dhamma within these 7 days, at least you have the basic, and you have the right way of practice. And some of you may gain more faith. And when you go back home, then you can continue to practice. And you should continue to practice until the end of your life. Because the body get old, get sick, and die. That is normal. So our body is the result of our past karma. The body is just the 4 elements that we borrow from nature, and it will last no more than 100 years. But when we die, only the body dies. The mind doesn't die. And it will be reborn according to your karma, whether good or bad. So all of you should have this right understanding of the Dhamma, that the body, in the end, it will die. But for the mind, the end is Nibbana. So even though we haven't reached Nibbana, but may you all have the faith, the diligence to practice. Venerable Ajahn Chah said that if you're diligent, you practice. And when you're lazy, you practice as well. And when you continue to practice, your mind will slowly become peaceful. So now, today, you may not be peaceful in your sitting. That is okay. Maybe on the 5th or the 6th day, you will enter Samadhi. And when you enter Samadhi, when the mind is peaceful, then your diligence to practice will become automatic. But before the mind is peaceful, you should have patient endurance. And try to keep your mind in the present moment. Some of you may have the 5 hindrances happening. You may become drowsy, you may start to proliferate, then you can change your posture from sitting to walking, or you can sit with your eyes open. And also, you should have enough rest. And when you keep your mind, when you have mindfulness continuously, then you will realize that how much rest you need to have. That is just the body will rest for just the right amount of time. That is the middle path. So today you have been listening to the Dhamma since the morning. You have walking meditation, sitting meditation, and even though you may not remember the Dhamma that you listen to, that is okay. It is more important to keep your mindfulness And after this session, when you go to do the chores, you should keep your mindfulness. And when you go to take shower and go up to the evening chanting, you should keep your mindfulness with you all the time. And with this mindfulness, the mind will start to become peaceful, and you will be able to realize the Dhamma. So in the end, I would like to anumodana with all of you that are here, and also the people who are practicing online. May you be prosper in your life, and may you realize the Dhamma.